Welcome to Ion Franchising, where you will learn the A to Z's of franchising. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Ion Franchising. I'm your host, Lance Graulich, and today it is not often that I speak to a 37-year veteran. You heard that right. This is not an audio issue. It is true. 37 years in the world of franchising. I'm going to welcome a gentleman that is now the Chief Operating Officer of Caring Senior Service, and this is Jeff Bevis. So welcome to the show, Mr. Jeff Bevis.
Hey, Lance, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, Jeff, we're going to go way deep. We're going to go way back. What did Jeff Bevis want to be when he grew up? Because clearly, all those years ago, you didn't want to get into franchising. Nobody even knew about it, right?
That's very, very true. Yeah, I think way back when I thought I would be an architect, which is actually kind of cool because it has a twist back to, I think eventually I became a builder of brands, a builder of businesses.
You are an architect.
Yeah, I kind of became at least partially one.
Yep.
A franchise architect. So.
And by the way, I don't want to do you a disservice. You have done an absolute ton in the world of franchising. So, as you tell your story, of course, you've ran all kinds of brands. So you're not just, hey, I'm just working at one brand right now. You have an incredible history. So I want to give you your due. So make sure weave that into the story, obviously, because everybody wants to hear, how did this dynamo do so well in franchising?
Okay, I will do.
Do it. So go for it.
So I originally was in transportation logistics out of college, and the old Ryder truck rental system. And one of the positions I had, Lance, was as a dealer manager, working with mini storage, gas stations, tool rental, entrepreneurs. Fell in love with it. Just absolutely loved working that part of the business. Was recruited away to Budget car and truck rental at the time. That was a franchise system. I was one of 3 gentlemen recruited to start the Budget truck rental business way back when. So the car rental side was already there, obviously. But kind of had a baptism by fire into the franchise world, going to Budget. More working with entrepreneurs, obviously. Just really enjoyed that. So over the years, I have done truck rental in franchising, also car rental in franchising at Thrifty Car Rental, airport parking franchising, and that's a tough one. That was at Thrifty also. Employment staffing, Express Personnel, home care, the first go around at Comfort Keepers to rebuild that brand. And then when we sold Comfort Keepers, I had a brief break based on non-compete and was president of a home decorating franchise called Interiors by Decorating Den, but really knew I wanted to come back into the home care world. To me, that's kind of the best of both worlds. I've been a caregiver 5 times in my life, and then marry that with franchising. And so my son and I started a brand from scratch called First Light Home Care.
I knew you did First Light. So was First Light your first ownership participation? Okay, got it.
It was. Yeah, I was kind of a fix-it guy, if you will, for franchise brands up until that time. Always enjoyed the challenge, whether it be a long-standing brand like a Thrifty Car Rental that's been around for decades and decades, or a newer brand. When I was at Express Personnel, they were only about 15 years old. And Comfort Keepers was literally 4 years old when I went there, going from the founders to their first private equity owned group. So yes, we went to First Light, or started First Light in early 2010. I always wanted to be in business with my son. We thought we'd really be franchisees, quite honestly. He worked at Thrifty when he was in high school, washing cars. So he got to see how a franchise works. But we really wanted to work together and were able to put together a great foundation with First Light.
I love it. So where did First Light come about? I'm just curious, as an owner and founder of a brand, We're obviously going to talk about carrying senior service, but you obviously have an affinity for home care. So why home care? And why don't you just explain about what the home care industry is all about? Because I still talk to people about home care and they give me this blank look when we're on a
Yeah.
Zoom call, like, what does that mean? Why would anybody do that? And unfortunately, I've had an experience with home care with my mom and my dad and my uncle. So I'll clap as now. So Jeff, unfortunately, I'm quite familiar with home care, with my
Mhm.
mom, my dad, my uncle, but most people aren't familiar with home care. So why don't you share with us what home care is and also your inspiration for starting First Light?
Sure. Well, home care, first of all, is specifically non-medical services. So we all think of home health, which is a nurse in the homelands, and it's been around for decades and decades. Home care, non-medical home care, is caregivers, personal care aides, home health aides. They're called different things in different states that are providing, just as it said, non-medical care in someone's home. Also could be in facilities, assisted living facilities, independent living facilities, or memory care as well. Um, and again, most people think of home care as being home health. The reality is there really is a separation. There's a couple interesting statistics within the industry of surveys that have been done in the last 7, 8 years of the general population, that only 10% of the general population even knows home care exists.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, yeah. Even though we have so many experiences and so many friends, neighbors, family who have gone through that home care challenge, most people don't think of really the home care need. Now, as an industry, we are just exploding, and having been in the industry now for 20 years, we're not quite to the midpoint. We have about another 30 years ahead of us as an industry. So, and those of us who have been in the home care industry know that it has been crazy for 20 years based on just growth. Baby boomers, aging demographics, have all been winds at our backs. That's only going to intensify in the
Yeah.
next 25 to 30 years too. So this business is not a business where you have to be a nurse or a doctor or have healthcare background. In fact, it's almost the exact opposite.
Got it. So let's talk about, from First Light, you exited that, and then what?
Yeah, from First Light, exited in late 2020, had a period of non-compete and have done consulting, but then also have known Jeff Salter and Ian Clays here at Caring Senior Service, the industry for years and years. Reached out to them and to see if they could use a little added help. And so I came in, did some consulting here for a brief period, and now have been the COO for the last year and a half.
Love it. They probably said, "Are you kidding me? Come on in here." You sometimes probably felt like you created an industry being in it as long as you have been.
It has been something that I do feel like I know it very, very well. I don't think I have all the answers, but you have had tremendous success now with three brands, and I just really feel like the industry has still the upside, still needs a higher level of care, higher level of service.
Wonderful. So Caring Senior Service, tell us what that brand is all about, what the secret sauce is. You can reveal it here. It's okay. Your secret is safe with me. What is all the good stuff going on there? Why does somebody want to be a franchisee there? Go.
Okay, so Caring Senior Service is non-medical and home care. We've been in business for 31 years, franchising for 20 years. And I think in many respects, Lance, we're the best kept secret in the industry. Our differentiation is our technology platform, our great care method of doing business, which is literally a higher level of quality, higher level of service. We have 55 offices in 17 states today, over 600 territories available across the U.S.
Love it.
And like I said, just a best kept secret. When I was at First Light, my son and I thought we were the first home care brand to be tablet based. In 2018, we put 200 iPads out to the field, and we were becoming tablet based. Heck, Jeff was doing it here in 2016. So we are tablet based here. We have our own proprietary staffing scheduling software called Tendio that is light years ahead of everything else in the industry. So we like to think of it as we're high touch, high tech. So we're very, again, high touch on the quality side, the service side. This is very much a people business, as you might expect. We're dealing with seniors and clients and families every day. So it's not something that we can automate or turn with AI or robotics or chat GPT.
You're not getting replaced by Amazon anytime soon.
No, we are not. So we have great opportunity here, and I'm just excited to be at Caring.
Love it. So investment, how much is it? What is that investment to get involved in your brand?
Our item 7, Lance, is 110 to 170,000. Our initial franchise fee today is $49,000. We have a 5% royalty, 2% ad fee. It is not an expensive challenge to get in business with Caring. We have several other services that we provide, I think, that even make it easier versus competition, but it's really a business that's designed for a very moderate initial working capital range.
Are most of the franchisees or the prospects coming to you doing a loan, an SBA loan, or are they just using, hard-earned cash?
Yeah, most are using hard-earned cash or their own liquidity. We are SBA approved. We do have folks that do take the SBA route, but again, it's not usually a big number if they are pursuing an outside loan.
Got it. So if you're going to look at the top 10% of your franchisees, your best franchisees today, where do they come from? What do they look like? How old are they?
Yeah, that's always one of the intriguing aspects, I think, of any franchise system, isn't it? Because in our case, we have people from all walks of life, teachers, bankers, IT, engineering.
It's probably a lawyer in the group.
I think there's actually a retired lawyer in the group. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing how in our business, if you have good operational skills, good organizational skills, good communication skills, you can be very, very successful, not unlike a lot of other franchise brands, but this is not, again, something that takes a highly specialized background.
Yeah. So what is that secret to success? If you're looking at those, again, in my example, the top 10% of best franchisees now and in your past life as well, what are those secret ingredients to success in a franchise?
Yeah, it's probably not that mysterious at the end of the day, but it's basically following the system, using the tools, and working at it and making it work for you effectively. There are certainly franchise brands out there, Lance, that are absentee ownership, and you can have somebody else that's operating the business for you day to day. Most of the successful ones that I'm aware of, barring a QSR or a food type of brand, it takes an active ownership role to really make it successful.
Yeah. Well, and then there's a special skill, and I know this from being a franchisee, is to work successfully and collaboratively with a team.
Yes.
And most people, if you've never been your own boss, it's tough to create a team and work through a team and keep your day job. So that's a big skill in and of itself.
Sure. Well, and especially if you want to scale and have multiple markets, multiple offices in the home care world, you absolutely need to build a strong team. No one can be in two places at one time, right? So you've got to make sure you've got that great team of people in each market that are going to be able to follow the system, execute the model, and do it consistently every day.
Yeah, but to your earlier point, I totally agree, Jeff, in that if you're going to be the full-time owner operator like your concept, desires and requires, even if you have no experience in the industry, like probably the large majority of your franchisees, you could be successful following the system and working hard, being there.
Yes. Yeah. Just, using the strengths or the talents that you have, that you pulled from corporate America or whatever background you've come from, but then putting those tools and experience to work with the franchisor.
Yeah. My favorite expression, your skills, whatever they are from your past life, are transferable to a franchise.
Oh, yes, that's very, very true. I would agree.
So let's talk about launching this thing. Well, let's talk about process. So myself as a franchise broker, or I bring you a candidate, what is that process like for you? They might find you on the internet. Obviously, I call the first phone call with a brand the coffee date, but you can
Yes.
take it, do that in your own words and go through the whole process, please.
Sure. Well, yeah, and it is kind of a coffee date first. We like to talk with the candidate, just understand, asking just a couple questions and let them share more with us. And we try to listen very, very well. Tell us more about their background, what they're looking for, aspirations. Timing is always important. If they're going to have family partners, who's going to be involved in that whole decision-making process. As you know, that's important on the franchise development side. I want to make sure we have the right players involved right from the start. But our process itself, Lance, is a 9-step process. That's from first contact to actually opening the franchise. We are going to get to know them very well over a series of calls. We do have a qualification application. We have a couple little short decks to take them through the caring senior service model, so they understand what our requirements are and really what our secret sauce and our points of differentiation are and how that really helps them within the total industry. We do give them quite a bit of industry knowledge and learning because we think that's very important too. There's a pro forma template that's built into the process so that they can do their own pro forma. We do industry benchmarking studies that we provide to them so they have the industry data to also reference to. We map the territory with them together using a mapping software. Our territories are all 250,000, 275,000 total population. One of our differentiating points too is we use 5 different kind of tiers, levels of demographic data to really dig into things like not just average household income, but average age by zip code, and also type of disability by zip code, because those are all potential clients for us. So we do a very detailed dive into the territory mapping, come up with a territory that they feel comfortable with, and then ultimately have a meet the team day where they come and meet us here in San Antonio and become comfortable with the team. I think, as you would agree, it shouldn't be a surprise day. It should be just confirming what we've already learned over the series of the process. But then take them through 5 days of virtual training, 5 days of classroom training. Then we go on site to help them open.
Love it. Sounds logical. And you help them open. So let's go right into marketing. Or should we talk about training? Let's do marketing first.
Okay. So marketing is something in our business where we're really kind of B2B. And what I mean by that is we're marketing to referral sources that we have, web presence and digital campaigns to seniors, or what we call the adult child, who's more and more the decision maker for our type of service. But the marketing day-to-day, Lance, takes place with referral sources. So hospitals, elder law attorneys, both medical and non-medical, or healthcare, non-healthcare referral sources, to just build relationships in your local market. And that's who refers clients to us. So that marketing, to me, it's kind of 2 wheels that turn all the time. The marketing wheel never stops, and then the recruiting wheel never stops.
Yeah, it seems like it's obviously it's a very personal type business. And, when this starts to happen to a family and there's a need, you're going to ask everybody, or the people that obviously you trust. I mean,
right.
With when my mom first, was going downhill, we're like, I'm in the business. So I took it upon myself to call a couple of my favorite franchises like you to say, hey guys, need a little help over here.
Good.
So let's talk a little bit about training. So what is the training, considering that most, if not all, franchisees have never done anything like this?
Mm-hmm.
What does the training entail? How much is done in their market versus in your market? Let's say San Antonio, they come to training in San Antonio, right?
Right. Yeah,
so go through that, please.
Sure. Yeah, they go through the 5 days of virtual training with us as kind of a lead up. But part of that virtual training involves some projects for them to do local market surveys. This business, as you said, is very a personal business, but we focus on having them call and email, so separately communicate with at least 6 different competitors in their market, because we want them to not only hear a price or hear what how the services are priced, but also hear how do they answer the phone, how well do they respond, how quick do they respond. You know, as you mentioned too, in your example with your mom, when oftentimes when we have inquiries, it's a life urgent type of a request.
Can you start today?
Yeah, it's not like, hey, could you have a caregiver for me to start in a month? So we want to be very sensitive to that type of phone handling and kind of how we manage the inquiry. So we tilt our training to that very heavily. Then when they come into San Antonio for 5 days of classroom training, that's a lot of role plays, group activities, and kind of practicing the marketing, the recruiting, the operations, the team building, as well as the financial management of the business.
Love it. So when how do people know, like, the day-to-day of this? I had a gentleman not too long ago who's like, I can't wrap my head around it. Where do I get the customers from? And I kept telling him, I said, don't worry about the customers. This, as you said earlier, Jeff, there's an enormous need for this service.
Yes.
What I tell people in home care, and you're the expert, it's really you as the franchisee working with all the caretakers to make sure they're taking care of your customers. I mean, what are we in the middle of? The silver tsunami, I think they call it.
That's
Everybody,
right.
every day, another 10,000 people are turning 65.
Yeah, it's up to 12,000 now, by the way.
12,000. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, thank goodness people are living longer. They need, longer term care. So what is it like in the day to day? Because, as you know, when folks listening right now, they don't know. Some people immediately feel good when they hear about home care and they start to understand it. And then other people like, I don't know. That doesn't sound like something I want to do. So how do you walk people through that? How do you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a combination of a couple of things. So you're definitely building a team right from the start. In our case at Caring, we have a 3 FTE base. So you have a home care consultant, which is the outside marketer. You have a care manager, who's the inside recruiting HR operations person, if you will. You have an agency director, so kind of that general manager oversight. So right from the start, you're building a team of not only your staff management and those 3 roles, and oftentimes the owner is in one of those roles, depending on his or her background. But then you're definitely recruiting that other wheel that I mentioned, the recruiting wheel, and you're recruiting both from we consider grassroots sources, local sources, almost like a marketing approach where you're calling on local community colleges and nursing schools and churches to recruit people to become caregivers with you. The industry is very, very heavily skewed, Lance, to part-timers. So most of our caregivers are part-timers, and we want as much variability there as possible, because we're going to have client requests for just care in the morning, just care in the afternoon, just care at night, just care overnight, maybe even 24/7. So that day in the life is very much keeping those 2 wheels turning. But I would say, especially in the early going, it's that focus on people and the interviewing process, hiring, training, and then retaining a growing caregiver base. Because to your point, we do not have a lack of demand. If our marketing efforts are in the field every day and building those relationships, the referrals come in. The worst thing can happen is not to have enough caregivers in place to fill and meet the referral need.
Yeah, there's just an incredible demand, absolutely, for sure. So let's talk about your item 19, the FDD. A lot of people, for those listening, if you've never investigated and looked at a franchise, the franchise disclosure document is the first stack of paperwork, so to speak, that you'll receive from a brand when you're investigating.
Right.
And the item number 19 of 23 items is my favorite. It's most people's favorite because they want to understand, show me the money. How much money can I make? What is the potential? And, look, the goal is everybody wants to build $1 million business, and you can do that with home care. So
Yeah.
what is your item 19? What are just some of the highlights? They'll get it when they
Sure.
want to investigate.
Sure. Yeah, our item 19, and again, something I agree with you, Lance. I don't shy away from item 19 at all. I think that's kind of a point of entry. You better make sure any franchise that you're talking to has an item 19. If they don't, not end of the world, but that's probably more of a potential red flag. Our item 19 is based on all of our offices, on total revenues, gross revenues, top line. We take candidates through a couple different cuts based on years in business, so they can see a progression and what the average, median, and high ranges are based on office and based on the number of years that they are in business. As you mentioned, home care can very much be $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. I see them as big as $9 and $10 million in annual revenue, just because, again, the increasing demand overall. Hours per week of care, by the way, is kind of our metric in the industry. So even with our price per hour going higher and higher lately, 1,000 hours per week that you're providing care is typically about $1 million to $1.1 million in top line revenue annual.
Got it. That's a pretty fascinating metric. I'm doing math here, but no, look, as you know, a lot of people they come to me and they're like, where's my best bang for my buck? Where's my best ROI? I don't know. Should I do a restaurant? And I look at them, I go, restaurants can be fantastic if you have restaurant experience, but it's the biggest learning curve. You're dealing with perishable goods and
yes, supply chain,
difficult, unskilled employees that maybe can get a job anywhere. So maybe that's not the business for you. So you look at home care and you go, look, it's a low cost, about 150 grand. You're in business, including some working capital, franchise fee paid, then leverage your money, put some money down, get an SBA loan. And look, I mean, it doesn't take that long to ramp up, right?
Right.
I mean, tell me about your smartest, best owners as they ramp up in the first year and they tell everybody they know, all of a sudden they have an amazing cash flowing business. I mean, what does it really take to ramp up in this business?
Yeah, it is definitely not something that takes years and years. Typical home care business, typical caring senior service business, we're ramping up in 7, 8, 9 months from a cash flow break even positive standpoint, some even shorter than that. Our current rookie of the year was a little bit north of 900 hours per week in the first 12 months. That's a very solid return in your first 12 months, in your first year in business.
So more or less, because of the number you already gave us, he was pretty close to $1 million in his first year.
Yeah, it can be done. Not unusual. Yeah. And then, out years, 2, 3, 4, 5 years out, the growth of the industry averages about 8% right now of the industry. And we think that's pretty low. We're just under 15% right now as a system first 4 months. And we think 20-25% is very realistic.
Wow. Fantastic. So Jeff, a lot of people listening, maybe they've never investigated a franchise. Some people come to me and like, Lance, how do can't I just create my own concept? You've done both. You've created your own concepts. You've been in the franchise world. Give some advice to folks listening, why would you do a franchise versus starting your own? Give me the good, the bad, and the ugly. All those years of experience.
Sure. Okay. Well, I think first of all, people need to be true to themselves and make sure they're clear or determined what they do best and what experiences they can draw on the best, whether they've been, in healthcare or banking or tech or any occupation. Those all draw experiences. I think they want to make sure they determine what those experiences are first. Second, have a clear understanding of what type of business they want to get in. Now, you and I both know as a business, as a franchise consultant, business broker, that's a great role. They can give great guidance to candidates. I think we as franchisors can do some of that too. If we're doing our jobs right, we're helping them walk through kind of a self-awareness, self-discovery to really see, hey, what type of business do you want to be in? What do you want your average typical day to look like? So to what you're saying before, if a restaurant environment is where they came from and that's what they thrive in, then maybe that's what they should actually pursue. But most of us, I think, coming out of a corporate world with either sales and marketing or management background in some way, shape, or form, could really be very conducive to the home care space. And then it's just a matter of narrowing down and understanding. I think this may be the most important point, if I could make this, Lance, is for candidates to understand that all brands are not equal. There is wide disparity between brands in the same sector, same industry, and then certainly in between different industries. But to look at home care, boy, we've got 45, 50 franchise brands in a growing space, but there's a unique difference to every single one. Make sure you look under the hood, make sure you really check those out, make sure you see what the differences are.
What are, without throwing any other brands under the bus, what are those top few things that you see out there that people should check for? I mean, obviously, you look at the franchise disclosure document. That's my favorite thing, step one. And then the last part, besides feeling good as you go through each step with the brand that you feel like you belong, the most valuable, I always think, is talking to existing franchisees and getting that true sort of barometer or validation. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's definitely where you want to start. You've got to make sure that you have an open book. I think if any franchisor says, hey, here's the 3 owners I want to talk to, that's not validation. We want to be able to talk to any owner, right, at any time that's in through this process, that's whether they've been there 6 months or 6 years or 16 years. That's very important. I think you also want to make sure that you're asking and digging into things like support, things like franchisee satisfaction. I'm a big believer in the outside companies that do the franchise satisfaction surveys. I think franchisors that really excel have a deep commitment to doing those surveys every single year, and they should show you the data, the survey responses, whether they were ranked, number 1 in their category or number 200. You want to make sure you dig into that, because if a brand's not focused on the franchisee satisfaction, that's a gaping hole too.
Love it. Love it. Jeff, you've shared a lot of information. What did we miss? I mean, let's hear your final thoughts, final words of wisdom from the guy that's been doing this a really long time.
Well, I would say franchising is not for everybody. To one of the quick references you made earlier, Lance, you could be in business for yourself as an independent, a mom and pop in any industry, and potentially do very well. We all know the statistics, the history, the numbers show a franchise business is far, far more likely to be successful than doing it on your own. But I think that's a point of separation right from the start. Understand if you are looking to follow a system, follow a model, have a much better chance of success, franchising is a great way to go. We know we have franchises in almost every industry that the world knows today. But it can be a tremendous industry, a tremendous opportunity for personal wealth, generational wealth, and just can't speak highly enough of franchising overall.
Love it. Well, Jeff, thank you for sharing all of your experience and knowledge today. And it's been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Thanks for allowing me to be with you, Lance.
My pleasure. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you very much for listening today. Please like, follow, and subscribe. This is Lance Graulich. Until next time.